Okay, welcome to Commodity Analysis and a look at the Japanese yen using an unorthodox fork, a proprietary fork that we use called a F&L. The details of this are in the course. It's not used by anyone else, and it works simply on the principle that we have a relationship between all of these pivots. This is what would be called PO. This is what would be called P1 in a normal Andrews fork, and that would be P2. We've broken the swing down, this whole arc of movement, this whole wave, this whole cycle, and we've found the most significant point of all these pivots, save of course Dr. Andrews' original theory, which you know is beyond reproach. But this first swing high here, the end of what would be called by Elliott wave theorists wave 1, before any retracement, and if you look closely, you can see it there. This has the most powerful effect on price. Okay? And how do we know this? We know this because of the reaction lines. The reaction lines from a normal Andrews fork, and here it is, let's whack it on for you. Let's just move across. This is obviously the weekly, so you'll have to excuse. I'm going across. Okay, there we go. There it is. That point there. The reaction lines from this fork, you can see, are at this angle. The reaction lines from this fork are obviously at a shallower angle. Okay, and you'll see how they work in a minute. What we've found is, once we made a new low and price starts a new trend direction, the first point on here that it will head for is this fork here, this center line of this fork. In fact, if we're completely frank with you, the first high off this is this fork, and you'll say to me, good God, what are you drawing that for? And I'll show you. If we now go down to the daily, you'll see that indeed, after this low, the very first swing high before this retracement, this deep retracement, was in fact this line, and you can see there's good frequency on this line. But I want to go back to where we are at the moment in the Japanese yen. Let's go to the weekly. Let's get rid of the Andrews fork because that's of no use. That's miles away in price and time. That center line is I could be picking up my pension by the time the price gets there. That's years away. I mean, this is 2013. This is 1995. So it's of no use to us, and the lines. The reaction lines that emanate from it are of no use to us either, because again, this distance here projected forward into the fork to produce our first reaction line will be up here, many years away. So let's get rid of the Andrews fork, and let's get rid of the original F&L fork, this first and last. But you'll learn about that in the course if you've taken it. And let's go to have a look at price today, where it is now, and there we are. We've reached our center line of this unorthodox for F&L fork. And what I want to show you now is something quite bizarre and something you can use. And this is eSignal, but it works. And I'm about to switch into MetaTrader, and I also use Ensign. What I'm doing now is there's our black center line from that unorthodox fork, and this works on any type of fork, an Andrews fork, modified shift fork, or a shift fork. Let's just go over there. So there's a red trend line which I've tried to superimpose bang on that line. Okay, now we're in the daily chart. Let's go down to the 240, and there it is again. And you can see price comes up, zooms through, and then we find it oscillates around here. If there's going to be a change of trend direction, this happens at the horizontal lines, either median or reaction. It doesn't matter which. Okay, and I'm getting ahead of myself, and there's only so much I'm going to put into this video. Now we're going to go down to the 120. There we see it in a bit more detail. Now we're going to drop down to the 60, and we see suddenly the the actual trend line has separated. Both of these are valid lines, and I will introduce you to the concept of mirror lines. If you're doing the course, you'll do there's a great amount of material on it. But now what I want you to do is watch this black fixed center line as we drop down to the 30. Okay, now we're suddenly, where are we? I mean, this is prices. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. We're going to again superimpose over this. In fact, we'll make this a different color. We'll make this blue, shall we? There we go. Okay, and we'll just pop it back onto the line so it's bang on. I think you'll agree. I don't think that's okay. Now we go back to the 60, and what we've got here, if we extend this line, apply, is a valid level of support and resistance. And if you look right back here, you'll see here we are. So what are we saying? What are we actually saying here? That a line has more than one location? Well, I don't want to get into that now. In fact, we'll wait for this to. We'll wait. You can see the angle of this line is somewhat skewed, and we're in arithmetic scale here. We're not in log, and I'm just waiting for the date. There we go. But if we look back through, there continues to be, and we can go right back into. Let's go into the weekly. You'll see. This is the concept of a mirror line, and it's dealt with in great depth in the course, as are these type of pitchforks and how you can use them. And the trades that we recently published to do with the Japanese yen, and you see the upper median line parallel of this fork, is support and resistance, but generally support, there it's resistance. It's a valid line. It's a valid fork, and the reaction lines we're about to look at now. Okay, here we are in MetaTrader, same fork, same piece of price action in the yen, and you can see we've added one fork only on this chart and one custom indicator, okay, using the same pivot. This, I've actually drawn in the BC line for your amusement, so it looks more like a fork, because there we are. Popped it on there. Let's put this manual BC line back on, and let's go down to the weekly. That was in the monthly. You can see, by the way, what I was saying about this FNL fork, but this relationship is only seen with the reaction lines in the first swing high of any move, and there you can see these are the reaction lines from this fork, one set here and another set underneath. Okay, so we're going down to the weekly. Here we see what appears to be this recent price activity we've just looked at. And let's go. And again, I've drawn some lines on ahead of this. This works in both platforms. So let's go out. You can see here we have, and I've tried to, let's put this over. This is where the reaction line from that fork, the first reaction, a second reaction line, there's the first one as well, and that's at the intersection of the previous swing low, the very first. You see that one? That's a beauty. I mean, you can trade off these lines. They are significant, especially if you've got a good trend going, a downtrend, and you're able to find the first FNL, and you could do this in any time frame. It's all explained in the forks, all the setups. Now let's get back to the center line of this unorthodox fork and the reaction line. We've gone over it there. Let's get rid of this for the moment, delete, because actually what we're seeing here is this line, and you'll see for some reason one hidden. Okay, you can't do anything about this, it's just refreshing it, and it's the same with this, of course. The reaction lines can't be moved once you've chosen those pivots. Whatever pivots you choose, if we refresh the chart, it's already gone back. It's a bank holiday today, so there's not a lot of so I've overlaid this. There we go, and let's draw across this hidden line here, and let's thin that line down. That's a bit severe, so we'll thin it down to a nice blue line, and that should be bang on this hidden. Let's go down to the 4 hourly, and there's a couple of things that happen. First of all, one reaction line has appeared up there. Again, just have a look at this. We cannot refresh it and it goes back. You can see this activity here. This is where the hidden line was. There we go. And that, again, is giving us structure. We've got three lines there. Let's go into the 4-hour. This shows us that the location of the reaction line here has changed. So I'm going to squeeze this chart like that. Once you've found the frequency, you see it's moved again. This is all to do with scaling, what we're seeing here. Let's go to the 4-hour chart and let's take that and see if it's a fit. And that looks good. Maybe that is the frequency of the reaction line. Remember, these bars are just data presentations. For they're of our own invention. The market knows has no consciousness about these data mechanisms, bars, candles, all the rest of them. So here, this activity around this line shows us, and this behavior here, if you looked and followed on the blog, you would have seen the setup that we had up here, which gave us a huge move down. Now, I'm not saying price is reversing. Far from it. I think maybe we will see dollar yen reapproach this line and go through to the next target, which we know if we go up to the monthly chart, we can see the correlation between the various pivots of that great big swing in the monthly chart and the relationship between the other PO. Here we are. The relationship between all of these, okay, is lying ahead of price up here, and we can move this. So the next one, without doubt, would be there, and we would see similar activity to what we've seen, and that lies a long way off at the moment. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you a glimpse of some of the work that we're doing, and you can again see beautiful correlation along that line, and the use of these forks is explained in great detail in the course. Thanks very much.